Our guest this episode is Shiv Narayanan, who is founder and CEO of How to SaaS, a marketing strategy consulting firm that works with leading private equity investors and CEOs. As an advisor, consultant, and fractional CMO, Shiv has helped client B2B companies create hundreds of millions of dollars in enterprise value with marketing and demand gen. He is also the author of Post-Acquisition Marketing, How to Create Enterprise Value in the First 100 Days, a framework all private equity companies can use to grow their portfolio investments faster. Not only that, but Shiv has a considerable LinkedIn following of over 27,000 people and is known for his thought-provoking posts of hand-drawn charts and models. So here to talk all things marketing, welcome to the podcast, Shiv Narayanan.
Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage.
Anders, thanks for having me and that kind intro. Excited to be here.
Yeah, excellent. So let's get into this a little bit, and just let's talk about your background. Just how did you come into the marketing world? What got you interested in the first place?
Yeah, I started early 2010s in the internet marketing world, and back then, marketing and internet marketing in general was misunderstood. And I used to be part of this group of entrepreneurs that used to sell informational products and other things online, and we used to do it through sales pages. And so you would sell like a course or an informational digital product with a one-time fee and a long-form sales page. So I learned a ton about copywriting and traditional advertising and direct response and all of that during those days. And then a few years later, I became the CMO of a software company called Wild Apricot, which was one of the first SaaS companies in Toronto, along with Shopify and FreshBooks and a few others. And I very quickly noticed that SaaS companies and software companies in general do not employ the same principles that we were employing in the internet marketing world to sell products, and saw that as a huge missed opportunity. Where the basics of copywriting were not understood, the basics of direct response and metrics were not understood, and there just wasn't a data-driven approach around marketing overall. So I built that business as a CMO, grew to about 20 million in ARR, and we did it without a sales team, all through inbound and digital acquisition. And then we sold that business to private equity in 2017. And then when the PE investors that bought our company, they started asking me for help with their other portfolio companies, because what they had told me was that none of their other companies had a go-to-market like ours. And again, this is 2017, right? Which is almost a decade ago at this point, where now everybody kind of understands how important marketing is, or at least starting to clue into that. But back in 2017, everything was sales-led. And so through that process, I uncovered that B2B technology companies and PE-backed companies in general just need a lot of help on the marketing side. And so I founded this company where we now partner primarily with private equity investors and their portfolio companies to help them scale with marketing.
It makes sense why you call it How to SaaS. I mean, people
exactly.
are reaching out going, what did you just do? And can you do that for what we've got in our portfolio?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I almost let the cat out of the bag earlier, because before we were recording, I was almost going to say, hey, I've been kind of creeping your LinkedIn for a long time, and how you came on my radar are the hand-drawn charts, that you write, and you seem to have a mind for thinking in these, I don't know, just different dimensions, I guess is the best way to saying it. So how did you start thinking about these things and putting those drawings out? Because they're very unique, on LinkedIn, and they get a lot of traction. So how did you start thinking like that?
Yeah, I think the journey of building Wild Apricot was pivotal for me, because in building that business, I had a lot of false starts and made a lot of mistakes. And over the 5 to 7 year period that I was there, I had to figure out how to scale that business, because at that time, like right now, you have so many resources that kind of teach you how to grow a software company. But at that time, there was nothing. There were maybe 2 blogs. There was a SaaStr annual conference, and that was pretty much it. And so it was a lot of trial and error and learning through experience and just hands-on work. And through that, you start to rule out things that you think should work and then they don't work. And along the way, really develop this first principles approach of how to think about growing any company. And as I started advising more and more companies, you start to see universal truths that are the same across every business, every software company, every B2B company. And so that becomes easier to illustrate, because then it's not just about one company specifics, but you realize that, like, just like people, like a lot of people, like if you think about runners or athletes, a lot of athletes share similarities. Similarly, like SaaS companies do share a ton of similarities, and it's about boiling that down into first principles. And the drawings themselves, they're like some of the fundamental concepts that I think people need to be thinking about when they're thinking about their respective companies as well.
And I think your way of simplifying things down and making people think about that does it goes to the clarity of what you're in the depth of your thinking, and also I think makes people slow down and kind of go pump the brakes a little bit on some of their processes that they're running, or just what's kind of built up into the monsters that these SaaS companies can become, and
Totally.
so it's thought provoking for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is cutting through the noise as well. I find that, well, there's data out there now, which is like in the last month or whatever, more content has been put out in the last month than in the last like 10 years, something like some crazy stats like that, where the rate at which the world is producing content is exponentially accelerating.
Mhm.
So if you think about it from the perspective of all social platforms, there's just more content on there than ever before. So how do you cut through the noise when everybody has selfie videos out, everybody's doing a podcast, everybody has a carousel post, everybody has a newsletter? The way to differentiate is to be different, and to be different with something real to say, more than just being a copycat or just regurgitating something that you heard somewhere else. And that comes from true expertise or true experience and being exposed to certain things. So I wouldn't be the world's best expert on, let's say, golf tips, for example. But when it comes to this journey of building software companies, having gone through it, and built a business myself, and then also sold it, and then being part of, as an advisor or consultant to so many other companies and investors, I've seen so many of these movies that it's easier to distill it into
Yeah.
simple concepts for others to digest.
Yeah, and there's something, that again, the depth of thinking that you're bringing. I'm actually studying with a man named Simon Bowen. He's out of Australia. I don't know if you know him, but he's all about these models. So just that idea of going analog when everyone's going digital. And I think that's one of those things that you said, being different. It's actually just kind of going back to like basics, right? And just, but with the clarity of thinking in there.
100%, 100%. Being different and um, giving like almost like a pattern interrupt with
Yeah.
expertise, by bringing there's always going to be value in the marketplace to take the complex and making it simple, because the world needs that. And so the better you are at that, the better people can do their respective jobs, and you're actually helping them more, right? At the end of the day, if you're not helping your audience, then you're not really putting out great content. And so being valuable in the way that you can serve in the best way, like for me, it is through these concepts and things that are more intrinsic to me.
Okay. Well, I'm going to change gears for a little bit here, and I know that you've audited a number of companies that when you help them, and with that you're digging into sales and marketing numbers, and I'm just wondering, what kind of problems are you seeing, or what kind of trends do you see that need to be corrected out there?
Yeah, I mean, in the last 5 years, I've audited, like, I don't know, at this point, it must be over 1,000 companies. And I'd say in general, companies are underspending on marketing. Companies don't have an entirely predictable go-to-market. They're expecting too much from their sales teams. They're not data-driven enough. And just there's a fundamental misunderstanding of where revenue actually comes from. I think revenue comes from people like truly understanding your market. Like there's a famous saying, which is that the building is full of product experts. What you need is a market expert. And market experts are really difficult to find inside companies, but you definitely need a market expert in order to build a great business, and to generate revenue. So being a market expert means truly understanding people's pain points and problems, understanding who are the exact people, what is their makeup, whether it's by segment, by persona, by, I don't know, geography or interest or anything else that you can kind of understand them from. And then what is the best way to solve each of those individual segments or people's problems with a solution that you are best fit to provide. And by first getting product right, like I think that's the first step, and a lot of companies just get this wrong. So if you don't have a great solution to a good pain point, if there's a mismatch there, no amount of marketing is actually going to fix that. No amount of sales is going to fix that. And until companies get that right, like when they start to rush into marketing and sales spend, they end up not getting the kind of success that they want. So really nailing that down first. And then the second step is if you do get that right, with your first set of customers or whatever it is, then how do you find more of those people? And that's where sales and marketing have a critical role to play, which is how do you get in front of those folks to get them to know about you, to like you, and to trust you. And at the end of the day, it's really about trust, because in a lot of markets, products become commoditized. So even if I have a pen that I'm selling and someone else is selling you a pen, right? It's very simple to understand that pens are commoditized. Software is very similar, whether you're buying social media software or CRM software or advertising software. There's so many tools that compete with each other that have a very similar feature set. So how do you build trust in a marketplace where 2, 3, 4 products, sometimes 20 products look exactly the same or similar enough where you now need to make a decision? Well, it comes down to which brand do you have the most affinity for, who do you trust the most, and who can you actually, or who are you willing to make a bet on? And this is one of the reasons why companies like Salesforce continue to win, is there's just a ton of trust built there, right? And so understanding that how buyers are now making decisions or how they actually build trust in this marketplace, I think that's lacking inside of a lot of companies. Like it's not as simple as just, cold emailing your ideal customers or running a trade show or setting up a booth at an event, because that doesn't build trust. You just look like another commodity. Instead, you actually need to have something valuable to say to actually help your ideal customers solve their problems. And then slowly over time, they're going to trust you more. And if you look at some of the biggest brands in the world, they have that inbuilt trust.
Mm-hmm. That trust is so key, and especially in this world of AI now. They're saying, I just saw statistics, and you were just kind of talking about trade shows, but now they're finding trade shows are building more trust than any other marketing avenue, just because it's in person, and you can, and again, like you said, those outbound emails, like whatever people have, that
Right.
can be anything, right? So building that trust, and the other thing I picked out of what you said there too is that kind of, customer centric product first, right? Because otherwise the pain points, people are going to trust companies who get them, right? They get you, and then they know that they got you in terms of a good product. Yeah.
100%. I think just to finish that thought is,
Sure.
I think companies obsess too much over competitors. I think being obsessed over customers is far more productive, and understanding pain points and looking at what is the customer's end objective. And if you are fully dedicated to that and trying to find solutions to that, you're going to earn more trust over time. And then you get into this like virtuous cycle of collecting feedback from customers, iterating on your product, iterating on your message, and then disseminating that through your go-to-market strategy. And that leads to far better outcomes.
Yeah. Now let's talk about sales-led organizations versus marketing-led organizations, because you kind of touched on that earlier. Do you want to kind of discuss the differences and what you see as, I guess, the best fit for certain companies?
Sure. Yeah, I think in general, if you think about sales-led organizations, it can happen in any company really, where the primary, and there's a reason for this, which is that when a company starts, it's usually started by a founder, and the founder usually sells to their personal network for the initial sales of the business. And as you do that, it's basically a sales motion. And then as the company grows, the founder needs to duplicate themselves, and eventually they hire salespeople. And then it's theoretically possible for a company to get to 10 million or even 100 million to have a significant sales force, but very limited marketing spend. And so we see this in companies all the time where they might be doing 10 million in revenue, but only have a marketing budget of $300,000 because sales has been responsible for growing the business. Conversely, if you look at sophisticated companies, marketing makes up at least 10 to 15% of revenue, and it's driving 20, 25, sometimes even over 50% of pipeline. And so I think that's a good metric to measure how mature your marketing function is what percentage of your revenue is being contributed to by marketing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And finding that good split, or finding that good percentage, is kind of like what companies need to strive for, is having marketing do more heavy lifting, is kind of what you're saying, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in each company the answer is going to look different. So if you have an enterprise go to market and you have a set of 1,000 customers that you're going after total, in that case, sales should be leading the go to market effort, but marketing can still play a sizable role where it's responsible for 25 to 30% of revenue. In instances like that, we see companies with marketing contribution less than 10%. That is not a healthy marketing organization. On the flip side, if you have a product-led marketing, product-led growth, like kind of motion, in those instances, marketing should be contributing over 50% because you're more inbound driven. Customers are self-serving their way through the platform. And so it's easier to have marketing drive sales and revenue because there's lower touch involved. So in those cases, if let's say you have a PLG company, but your marketing contribution is only like 60%, I would say it should be closer to 80%, unless you're starting to go up market, at which point you need a sales team again.
Okay. So let's, while we're talking about, revenue, sales, marketing, and revenue department, what do you think is the most harmonious way of reconciling these two parts of the revenue department? Because we're seeing that more and more, but I think there's a lot of growing pains. There's a lot of, upheaval that happens there.
Yeah, I think it's starting with the business context and fundamentals. So understanding what's our revenue at, how much are we growing year over year, what's our average deal size, and how long do people stay with us, what's our retention. So I think that's level one. Level two is really looking at conversion rates and MQL to SQL, SQL to close, and also looking at how many targets are out there and almost segmenting your customers into tiers, where you have like your dream accounts that might be worth 100K plus and they receive one-to-one type of marketing. Then you have like your mid-tier, which is like the 30 to 50K range, and then they receive more of one-to-few campaigns. And then you have your one-to-many tier, which is smaller companies where maybe their ACV is less than $10,000. And with this kind of an approach, for each segment, you can decide on how much integration or alignment is required between marketing and sales. For the one-to-one accounts, you have to be hyper integrated because all the outreach needs customized content to do the outreach in the first place. So you need to have constant alignment meetings on target accounts, campaigns, follow-ups, metrics, and everything else. On the mid-tier, well, you can run more generic campaigns, but then you're still accountable to revenue and quality of prospects, and you have to leverage the sales team to give you the feedback to tell you, are you bringing in the right folks in the door? And then on the one-to-many side, there's less alignment or less integration, I'd say is a better word, less integration required because customers can self-serve their way through the funnel and work through that. So I think having a plan for each segment of customer that you're going after, at least on the price point level, is super important. And then having the operational mechanism to kind of just stay on track with each one of those three areas that I described.
And Shiv, just listening to you go, I can hear the experience, the expertise, that you've done this before. Can you tell us about what kind of companies are you looking to work with? Where can you help and add value? If someone's listening right here and going, wow, this guy knows his stuff.
Yeah, we work with companies anywhere from 5 million to like upwards of 500 million. So really varies. We're able to tailor our engagements. We have basically three solutions. Number one is strategy consulting, where we come in and do full audit and strategy build out and roadmap development and org design and budget recommendations. Number two is we provide fractional CMO services, where we operationally lead the team and work with internal and external resources along with the board and the CEO to execute on plans. And then number three is we do marketing due diligence for investors that are looking to buy companies to help them vet what is the marketing potential of a target investment that they're going to buy.
Nice, nice. I want your take on, we've got demand gen that is kind of the new kid in town, or whatever you want to say, and lead gen is kind of old school. Where do you stand on this, and how do you reconcile that as well? Because I talk to old school sales leaders; they're all lead gen, and the new wave is this kind of demand gen without the attribution and dark web and dark social, I should say, not dark web.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think there's a place for all of those, and I think in general, people always make it seem like it's all or nothing. Like they like with
Right.
for example, with ChatGPT and everything, everybody thinks SEO is dead. Not true. So I think it's taking it with a grain of salt, but a good framework or a way to think about this is that it's working backwards from people that are most ready to buy today to people who are nowhere in market. So if you think about customers, like you could put them in 3 or 4 buckets. One is they're aware of your solution and looking to test drive and buy it. So they're in like a consideration stage. Then there are people who are solution aware. They're comparing different options and looking at all the other solutions in the marketplace. Then there are people that are problem aware and they have some sort of a pain point. They don't know exactly how to resolve it. And then there are people that are unaware, people that just don't know that pain that they're actually experiencing. In general, if you look at just uh, dark social or like just content or brand awareness type of stuff, it affects people that are either problem aware or unaware more so than people who are ready to buy, because people that are in a buying window are going to make a decision in the next 30 days most likely. And so for companies, it's really important to have all the assets, campaigns, and everything live for people that are in a consideration stage today and work backwards to unaware. What we find inside companies is they haven't done some of the basic work of getting their demand gen function up to a point where they're competitive and for even that consideration set of prospects. And if you can't do that, then it's hard to yield a return on the marketing budget. And then you also have to build internal trust. It's with the board, with the CEO, the lobby for more budget. There's always this question of, should we hire another sales rep or should we fund marketing programs? And so that trade-off is tough. But if you come back with green shoots and data to say, hey, we started with a budget of 300,000 and we generated 500K in revenue. Now we want to start spending 500,000. Now it's way more easier to unlock that additional budget and slowly get to folks that are in that solution aware or problem aware or unaware state. And then as you grow and you have a bigger business, that's when you can start to invest into things like brand building assets like podcasts or writing a book or just speaking more and things like that. That's not to say that both of these things should not be happening in parallel. It's just like making sure some of those core fundamental pieces are finished is just an essential part of building a good business.
Nice, nice. While you were talking about that, I'm now, because I'm taking this models course and thinking about the stuff you do, I think I thought of a model or a drawing. So with your permission, I may make a Shiv-esque drawing on LinkedIn sometime, if that's all right. Hopefully you don't have the patent on that. So that's cool. Shiv, I got one more question maybe 2 more, but one of them is that I saw, I don't know if it was on LinkedIn, that you're a big poker fan. Is that true? Yeah.
That is, yep, I am.
Okay.
Playing the World Series and other things, yeah.
Yeah. Are there any lessons that poker has taught you about marketing, or marketing has taught you about poker? I don't know.
Yeah, tons of lessons that overlap between poker and business and in marketing in particular. I think one of the biggest things, and it's very similar to some of the things that we teach on the marketing side, is in poker, there's this concept called pot odds, which talks about like every time you're faced with a bet, you kind of have to evaluate the return you're getting versus your odds of winning the hand in that moment. And you use a combination of subjective judgment in that moment, along with empirical data to decide like what kind of odds you're getting. So as an example, if your odds of winning the hand are 33%, but you're getting more return on your money than 33%, it's good to stay in the hand, even if you lose the hand, because over time, you're going to make more money. And I think just that as a concept in marketing is the basics of analyzing your overall marketing spend, analyzing channels, analyzing campaigns, and everything else in between to help you really figure out what's working and what's not working. And so I think that's just one example of lesson. There's just countless others that as you start to think mathematically about decision making, a lot of even subjective decisions feel far more empirical.
I like that idea of, some people might look at marketing as a gamble, but you're actually seeing the investment potential, as you're playing poker, and the same is true with marketing. Should be an investment and not an expense or a gamble. In that sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Shiv, where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, the best way would be to check me out on LinkedIn. It's /Shivan-22, and just through our website, www.howtosas.com.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with us here on the Engaging Personalities podcast.
Awesome, Anders. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks again, Shiv. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in once again. And until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged.
Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and stay engaged.